Good afternoon. As I move my microphone closer so that you all can hear me. Good afternoon. Happy Saturday. It's a great day. Most of you are off work, I hope. Slaving away on social media, probably. Furiously typing to persuade all of your socialist opponents, the evils of their ways, to turn back. Shit posting matters. Thank you so much. I am not at PorkFest. I wish I was, but I was too tired to do that this year. I hear that Lynn Ulbricht is there, and there are a lot of Ross supporters there, and they're passing out certain signs. I'm very excited to hear all of this, and I hope that I can catch up with you guys soon on all of that. I wanted to talk a little bit about the Timcast episode. I thought that would be fun. A couple other things, maybe. Some of the things that happened. I also want to do a little plug for the very cool shirts that I have right now. Let's see if I can pull it up. I'm so bad at it. Get in, loser. We're stopping Joe Biden. If you want a t-shirt or a mug, you can grab it. Get in, loser. We're stopping Joe Biden. Vote Libertarian 2024. It does say that in tiny little print on the bottom here and on the back of that shirt. So yeah, there's that. You can grab that in my shop. Very cool. All right. So Timcast was a lot of fun. Clint Russell was supposed to be there as well. He got sick. So we didn't have the three-way post-mortem that we wanted to, but Dave Smith and I were there. I got to catch up with Dave a little bit before and after we went on. We discussed the Trump and Chase Oliver situation. I think that the chat was mostly positive, probably because there were a lot of Trump supporters who watched Tim's show. So my takeaway from that is that they are feeling friendlier to the LP, which is great because we want lots of people to support the Libertarian Party. Dave shied away from taking much credit, for the Chase Oliver win. I just want to thank him again for making this possible and helping us get a libertarian in the cabinet. I think it's really good stuff. But that's fine. The war in Gaza came up several times during Tim's show, which is good because I think what's happening in Gaza by the Israeli government is a disgusting atrocity, and we should not fund it, and we should stop supporting Israel with United States dollars and weapons. And I'm planning another Rage Against the War Machine rally in late September. It will be in Washington, D.C. We are going to have an awesome lineup of speakers. I'm working with my wonderful team on that right now. Tim Miller and Sarah Eisenhower, Libertarian Party Mises Caucus members. They are my ride or die squad. So I'm very excited to work on that with them. I'm also planning another really awesome event with Matt Toon and Brett Weinstein to happen the day right after. So it's going to be rally weekend in DC, pushing back against war. But having said that, I also think Americans want to talk about the economy and the pain that they feel at home. And I don't think that we did enough of that in that Timcast episode. I think we spent a lot of time talking about foreign policy, and it's very important. And if we were to stop funding war overseas, we'd be able to afford a lot more. But I think people also really want to talk about the pain that they feel in the immediate here and now in their own personal lives. Eggs and milk. It's really that simple. Grocery costs have gone up considerably during the last 4 years under the Biden administration. Whether or not he's all to blame for it, that's the reality. It has gone up a lot in the last 4 years. Wages have not kept up. People are working. The Biden admin is bragging about low unemployment, but people are still lamenting that they're barely able to make ends meet. There was the viral video of the working class guy crying in his truck the other day. It's interesting when women cry. Oh man, we're doing this freezing thing. When women cry on social media, it's like cringe, and you're just like, oh gosh, it's like some unhinged leftist white woman trying to get attention on TikTok, or she's so out of touch and stupid. But when like a working class dude cries about how he can't figure things out and he feels hopeless, it has like suicide hotline vibes, and it's hard to watch. It hits a little bit differently. People are upset. Um, the cost of living situation is a problem, and we need to talk about it as libertarians. I think we need to do a much better job of addressing this if we want to reach out to middle America, if we want to hit those swing states, the Rust Belt, all of that stuff. These people are just like, I got a problem, I need a solution, I need it now, I don't care about what else is going on in the world, I'm trying to feed my family. And yeah, the problem is inflation, but it's also regulation. And regulation is kind of like, it's this total snooze word. It puts most people to sleep. And that's what's even more dangerous about it, in my opinion. It's a silent predator that goes undetected in our economy. And we need to re-envision how we as libertarians talk about regulation. And I think we need to talk about it much more often and make it more appealing. This is a great way to reach conservatives also, who are worried about China and tariffs. So, I've been doing a little bit of brainstorming. I want to think about it as job killers, as predators of industry and innovation, and that these predators take like many different forms, right? There's the red tape monster, just endless red tape. Thing that ties things up forever. That's what killed the legal cannabis industry in California. Government school educated bureaucrats were too stupid to write laws that people could actually operate a business inside of. And so red tape just killed California's legal cannabis industry. And they do this in all kinds of ways. Sometimes they do it very intentionally. Sometimes they do it just out of sheer stupidity. But red tape monster is definitely a thing. And then there's special interest monster. Their industry privileges are very special, much more special than you. Do you have a cutting edge idea that could dramatically lower costs for consumers and save people's lives? Well, get fucked, loser. Big oil and big pharma have already decided who wins and loses. You get written out of the story. And that is a real problem. Special interest lobbying groups are regulatory monsters. And then there's also the climate cultist, the Green New Deal monster, trying to wipe out half of humanity in order to save the planet, unalive the humans, save the plants and the plankton. It's a total cult. They have all these little weirdos, these little Gretas who follow them around as part of their cult. That's a problem. It's a huge problem for anybody in a third world country too. It's definitely threatening to them. But these regulatory monsters make life in the United States harder than it needs to be. Yeah, we want clean air, obviously. We want to breathe. We want safe working conditions, but government regulations are not guarantees for those things. They're often just pay-to-play schemes. They stifle upward economic mobility for a lot of people in the United States. They really block us from being the recipients of really cool technological advancements. And we need a president who's willing to tell the climate cultists to F off and who will deregulate everything. Libertarians need to do a better job talking about these things. And we need someone who's going to be at the forefront, who has the executive authority to just say, you know what, it doesn't matter. We're gonna frack, whatever it is he says, whatever accent of your favorite deregulator, feel free to take that on and appropriate it. That's really what we need, I think, in 2024 for the presidential election. People will be much happier and more prosperous when they have good job opportunities and affordable goods in their homes. This is going to be a huge issue in the upcoming presidential election. Libertarians in particular need to do a better job of talking about it. We need to make it more interesting, make it funny, whatever it is, make the issue appealing, because regulations are very boring. It's a boring word, but it's a very, very important topic. We should talk about it more on Timcast and on other shows. Normalize talking about how sucky regulations are and how we're going to fix it. So that was one thing that I really wish that we had talked about more. We do a great job of talking about foreign policy. It's important, but we need to talk about domestic policy too. Oh, self-ownership versus the self-own. That was something I didn't really get to dig into the conversation that Tim and Dave were having on the pride flag crosswalk in West Virginia, or discuss the culture war and the erosion of civility that intersects it, to borrow from the lexicon of the left. So Tim Pool was talking about in West Virginia, for whatever reason, in one of their bigger cities, whatever that means in West Virginia, a big city in West Virginia, someone had painted some stupid pride flag. I think it was more like the progress flag, which, like, I think the pride flag, that's rainbows, it's beautiful, but the progress flag is just hideous. So they painted it across the street. I assume it was a crosswalk, and trucks were vandalizing it by screeching their tires over it, doing whatever. And Tim found that to be particularly offensive and said that, we should do better than that and we shouldn't destroy things. And hey, you moved here, you could have voted on it, I guess. And then you would have had a say in it. But the conversation just sort of kind of fell apart, and he and Dave kind of went down some bunny trails. I think a really important component, there's several components to this conversation I wish we dug into. One is that we are at odds over sexual cultural norms in the country. And it's not just, do people have a right to do whatever they want? It's making it normative. It's displaying it in front of children. Should it be viewed as like a religious or a political thing? Kind of like the controversy in Louisiana with the 10 Commandments. They must be displayed in every classroom. I think that's annoying. Like, what about they can be displayed? Kind of like Hammurabi's Code or anything else. The 10 Commandments themselves aren't particularly controversial. And I think that it's kind of intellectually dishonest to say they are. But it's when you say they must be displayed, then it's like, also now do we have to spend money on it? That's also annoying. The pride flag, progress flag, sidewalk, it has the must vibe because your tax dollars went to it. And it's right there. And like, you want to cross the street, you got to walk over it. It's really in your face. And I think that's kind of, what the fight is over. It's not that it exists. It's not people being outraged over someone putting a flag in their yard. I mean, we all make fun of each other for putting stupid, like in this house signs and that kind of crap in your yard. But, we're not going to war over that. We're just annoyed or we're making jokes at you. What recourse do people have when they feel like they're being forced to participate in and fund what they perceive to be immoral acts or a government agenda that they don't support? What recourse do we have, if you get outvoted? This is one of the problems of democracy, a representative government. It's like, yeah, but, I'm in the minority and you don't represent me, I don't consent. And like, it's an issue, and this is why libertarianism, I think, is the correct take on this. And why Michael Malice is really correct, in his assessment of voting. I believe in voting. I think it's self-defense. But what happens when your defenses fail? And I also do think that tensions are heightened because of economic issues. And I think if people had more money and they were happier at home, they probably wouldn't care so much about the stupid pride progress crosswalk. But that is not the situation, my friends. People are pissed off. I am perpetually annoyed with StreamYard, but it is what it is. Tim doesn't feel like we should support vaccine mandates, which I agree on. But I assume he draws the civil disobedience line somewhere between, the rainbow flag crosswalk and coercive vaccine mandates that are propped up with propaganda. I do think there's propaganda behind that stupid crosswalk, though. I imagine that the destruction of public property in any way, shape, or form is very unappealing to him because conservatives and libertarians both respect private property and they don't like destructive behavior. And public property seems to sometimes fall kind of under the emotional bandwidth of private property when it comes to destructive acts, right? Like, we don't like to see the left tearing down statues, that kind of stuff. And we don't want to be associated with that behavior. And I think we're really struggling to figure out where the line is in this country. All of us, far left activists, they know where the line is. Like, the line is wherever they say it is. They don't really have a line. Their line is arbitrary. They can do whatever they want. But for those of us who are more in the middle, centrist, conservative, libertarian, anarcho-capitalist, we're not 100% sure where the line is, because there's just like a lot to unpack, with the destruction of public property and how far we want things to descend into chaos. I think it's good for us to have this struggle session. I think we need to have it. And if we can't beat the left at their own game, violent riots, looting, property crime, deception, cheating in an election, dishonest narratives, how do we beat them then? How do we beat the left? My position is that we have to outmaneuver them, and we have to expand our alliances and grow our base while we do it. And it's tricky to outmaneuver them, but it can be done. And one of the ways that we can do that is what I call radical incrementalism. What is radical incrementalism? Abolish completely, one thing at a time. Very simple concept. Strike at the root. That is something that David Nolan said several times. He is the founder of the Libertarian Party. And one of the roots of our major problems in the United States is our education system. Our education system sucks. Let's look at some of the results. There's this thing called PISA that I want to share with you guys, if I can figure out how to do it. Let's look at the graduation rates and literacy rates in the United States. The administrator to student ratio in the United States. There's all of these statistics that you can look at that are just atrocious. Let's see if I can share my screen and show you some PISA results. What is PISA? It's this test that's taken internationally, right? By a bunch of 15-year-olds across the world. And you can look it up. It's like OECD-ilibrary.org. And there's all these test results you can see. They're really fascinating. So it shows in the, most of you who are libertarians and conservatives, you're going to be somewhat familiar with this. This is the 2022 test results. Why should we abolish the Department of Education? Why should we strike at it? Let's look at education rates in the United States. Where are we at in this chart? It's rated best to worst. Singapore, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32. We're like ranked 32 in the world on our education results for 15-year-olds, for high school students. It's really embarrassing. We've been beaten by Vietnam, Portugal, Hungary, Czech Republic, Poland, Ireland, and the UK are beating us. I mean, it's really bad. And you look at our results, we're down 8 points in mathematics. That's over, what is that? Long-term trend. Over 10 years, we're down 8 points. That's really bad. The average scores, and the mean, you can go into this in detail, 472, 476, 45. These are the higher test results, we're way down. Oh, I scrolled. Yeah, we're way down here. 465. We're way below all these others. Some of these are like developing countries. That's really embarrassing. Anyway, I think you get the idea. We're not in a good place education-wise. It's a giant waste of money. The Department of Education, I want to abolish it. It was established in 1980 under the Carter administration. It hasn't been around that long, so I don't understand why it's like sacrosanct and we shouldn't abolish it. We absolutely should. What does it do, right? Like, it sucks up a whole bunch of our tax dollars, and they put together, stupid plans, and they spend our money, and then they send some of it back to us. It's a complete waste. What does the federal government, like 2,000 miles away, have anything to do with education going on in another part of the country? It's like absolutely nothing, at least nothing that it should do. I believe that it helped that unlovable idiot George W. Bush spend $1 billion on a very failed No Child Left Behind program. Let's abolish it, right? Let's abolish it. Now, Donald Trump came out and said that he was going to abolish it and he was going to put a libertarian in his cabinet. I wonder which cabinet position that could be. Might it be the one that we agree with him on abolishing? I hope so. I think it's possible. We'll find out. Now, lots of us are distrustful on statistics. Maybe you guys don't like the PISA statistics. You can look those up. That's okay. Maybe tell me about your anecdotal experiences with government education. I assume that you'll all describe scenarios of bullying, fights, standardized testing, falling asleep, having to wake up too early, and a whole bunch of other unpleasant situations. Failing and then going on and succeeding in college or some other job, some career path that didn't require standardized testing and rote memorization of things like frozen tundra. When I was a guest on C-SPAN a couple months ago, one of the callers was a libertarian from Mississippi, who I know, and she was very upset that I was arguing on C-SPAN for the abolition of the Department of Education because she thought it was helping people. I thought that was pretty wild, and I was a little embarrassed. Maybe she was just calling in to give me grief because she doesn't like me, and if so, that's okay. But just throw straight insults at me that way, so that no one is confused about libertarians and the Department of Education. We want to get rid of it. Schools are government indoctrination centers, government schools. They indoctrinate people with jingoism. They have military recruiters and cops on campus. They are rabid propaganda centers for socialism and revisionist history. They brainwash children with Marxism and gender ideology now. They are violent places with bullying, fighting, and shootings. They're built like prisons. They encourage conformity. They hide secrets from parents. They're not good at teaching math, reading, science, or history. There's plenty of viral videos of teachers getting in fights with students, fist fights, knocking kids out, locking disabled kids in closets when they have autistic meltdowns. Why would any libertarian want to continue supporting the Department of Education? It's like the junior division of the Orwellian Ministry of Truth. At least at its heart, it's intended to turn children, I think, against parents and the family, to isolate children from their loved ones, and to basically exalt the state as the great provider and counselor. School teaches that government is God. I think the Department of Education should be regarded as the inner sanctum of a system that engages in child sacrifice, quite frankly. It's ritual, evil, it's anti-human, and it's actively engaged in the destruction of innocence and the destruction of the most beautiful aspects of the human race. Innocence, curiosity, youthful engagement, and wonder. I think it's our God-given duty to tear down this temple of Moloch and fire its false prophets before they corrupt any more of our precious youth. It's a fascinating juxtaposition. Tear down the institution that produces hateful automatons that in turn tear down icons of our past. So I guess I'm proposing an inversion of iconoclasm, I guess. And I think that this is radical incrementalism. I want to completely abolish the Department of Education. I think we have to do it. I think it's our moral prerogative. We have to do it. A radical incrementalist approach is to tear down one agency at a time. Now, strictly pragmatic incrementalist approach would be like a never-ending, slow, incremental reduction in government bureaucrats and budget line items. I think Cato, they recommend things like that. But the challenge with that sort of approach is that government grows too quickly to ever be slowly trimmed back. You have to hack off its branches or roots as quickly as you can, not trim little leaves and stems. So I'd like to hack off one of its roots, one of the worst roots, and it's one that's within my reach, the Department of Education. I think we should do it. I think it's the responsible thing to do. I think it's the right thing to do. And I hope that most libertarians agree with me. When we get to the how do we get into this position? That's where they start to sort of seize up, trade-offs. They treat it like a trolley problem. Most libertarians have developed coping mechanisms and ways of compartmentalizing or understanding the evils of the world, but they have not developed tools to address and change the world. And that is evident in our lack of political success thus far. And this is something that post-libertarians and people like Curtis Yarvin are very critical of us for. They're like, oh, you have this beautiful ideology, you know, but let's see you go enact it in the real world. And people just like seize up and they don't know how to proceed. And I think that's because a lot of them are ideologically possessed, but they're ill-equipped to navigate life in accordance with their ideology, except to just condemn things and complain on the internet. They just totally seize up and freeze when they're presented with an opportunity to make a positive change in accordance with their own belief system, because they can't navigate anything they perceive to be like a trolley problem or a paradox. And they view everything as a trolley problem. Everything is a trolley problem to them. You know, we can't do this because then it would mean that we accepted this or we accepted that. And they're never able to frame something as the greater good, or to frame it as though X, Y, and Z things are just like going to happen. And they're going to happen outside of your control. So you can jump into the situation. These things are going to happen anyway. And then you also have an opportunity to abolish the Department of Education and make a profound, incredible change in advanced libertarianism, and cut off the state's mechanism by which it indoctrinates people and endears itself, by which people endear themselves to the state. I think it's a really incredible opportunity, and I want us to take it. I'm committed. I'm going to make it happen. Get in, loser. We're stopping Joe Biden. Here's a criticism that I've gotten for this. People say that's not going to happen. Donald Trump doesn't keep his promises. Politicians in general don't keep their promises. I wonder if they also are referring to libertarian politicians, you know, because we run for office too. It's not possible. There's no chance. Why are you putting any faith in that? It's so unrealistic. It's so unlikely. Well, let me leave you with this thought. Which is more likely to happen in 2024? What's more likely to happen? Is a libertarian candidate for president going to get 2% in the general election? Are we going to get all the way up to 2%? Or is Donald Trump more likely to put a libertarian in his cabinet? Be honest. What is more likely to happen? Thank you for that. Let's take a look at the comments. Brutal. I won't even read it. Love it. Brutal. Will Betsy DeVos be back in there? LMAO. LMAO, no. Not going to say anything nasty about Betsy DeVos, but I don't think so. Of course, libertarians are stuck thinking about things like a trolley problem. Autists love trains. Very true. Is Vivek considered a libertarian? I think by a lot of people, yes. But in the context of this conversation and conversations I've had about this particular scenario, no. Isn't that fun? Yeah. So think it over, guys. What's more likely to happen? Are we going to get 2% in the 2024 election with Kennedy running as our competition? Or are we more likely to get a cabinet position? I think you know the answer. I'll leave you to mull that over. In the meantime, get in, loser. We're stopping Joe Biden. Support Chase Oliver in swing states. Support him in the left, in left-leaning states. Make sure he gets the support that he needs. Make sure you preach the good word of Chase Oliver's campaign to all of your progressive friends. He is the best anti-war candidate. He is the most progressive, perhaps in a different way. But, we all want progress, right? Libertarians want progress. Something progress. Vote for Chase Oliver in swing states and blue states. See you guys later.